We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones that make a better the next time we give them. And that's what we see the world. Say it. Hey, hey, hey. Hi. This a pop-up book club. I hope y'all can hear me because I can't even like hear myself. So I like cause if you watching, actually I know y'all can't hear me because I got my phone on in the bathroom in the other side. So if you want to be on camera and you're watching, you can text, you can comment. Otherwise, hang out with us because there's this brother. I can hear myself up there. I think that ain't gonna work. We have to do something about that. That ain't gonna work. Anyhow, if y'all have never heard of this book called My Grandmother's Hands, you're missing out. Like you gotta have the fear of FOMO if you never heard of this. And there is nothing like super special about this book club, Unbook Club Party, other than you get access to me. Because I love to read. If you were to see my office, you would just see books all around this place. I don't always read them all, but I just love being surrounded and hugged by words. So speaking of my grandmother's hands, grandmother's elbows looking pretty rough right now. So I ain't got no lotion on and I'm not doing that. I just want to share this excerpt of my grandmother's hands with people who trying to figure out what are these things called ACEs and why are so many people talking about them. But for right now, y'all gonna have to hold on because my phone is driving me crazy because I can hear myself. So y'all hold on 1 second. Okay, quick and to the point. If you have access to the TV, to the internet, to YouTube, to Facebook, whatever you are focusing on right now has your attention. If you happen to catch wind of conversations on internet about kids and the parents and like how we got here, why our kids so turn up, like you got to learn about childhood trauma. We are not trying to pass blame on parents to say they screwed up. That's not what this is about. It's a lot deeper than that. No lie, there are some parents out there that's not getting it quite right, even with all the available information there is across the internet and at your fingertips. Hall passes for some of our parents who grew up before library systems were even accessible to people who had very dark skin or brown skin. Right now, there's no excuse, family. There are no excuses. We get it. There are no excuses. If you can scroll, you can learn how to break generational ACEs. If you can't read, because studies say that if you grew up in a very disruptive environment, chances are you probably left home not being able to read well. Okay. That's okay too, because some of us can read for you. And with all the technology that's out there and available, ain't no excuses, y'all. We can be first generation chain breakers. And I use this time in my platform, which will be very short, so y'all can carry on and go on and watch whatever type of TV or things that like keep you busy on a Thursday night. But you gotta cop this book or follow this gentleman on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, because even if you don't like reading books, this man has set the stage for how we should be talking about healing from intergenerational trauma. I have not even finished this whole book, but it was so good in the very first 5 chapters. I was like, I want to share this with people. So this book has been a part of my formula of healing, something that I want to share with the community of people that follow me and ACEs Matter. So y'all gonna get to do some Cindy story time. Jet or comment if you watch and tell me if you've read the book, if you've seen it before. What were your takeaways? Any pushbacks on anything that Resma Minicum has said in this book? The dude is fire. The dude is just like, he just gets straight to the point. Ain't no sugarcoating it. He got some cutesy little names for some of the stuff that we see happening. And I think it's a great way to explain how we got here and what we need to do to be first generation chain breaker. So let's have at it. Here it is. Take a screenshot. I'm going to actually invite y'all to purchase this man's book if you decide. He does not know that I'm doing this. But if you do decide to pick up the book, I'm going to politely ask that you consider in purchasing, following the link that's on our website. Because when you purchase his book using this link, Aces Matter gets a little hookup, okay? We need as many hookups as we can give because there's not a lot of people breaking down the door trying to keep our lights on. So, childhood trauma is not a sexy topic. People would much rather watch garbage TV before they show up to watch something about healing. So I would be extremely grateful if you followed this path that I'm dropping in the chat and purchase this book using the link that I'm going to give you here. I just dropped it in the chat. I'm going to put it up here because I'm my technology person. As you can see, I have 8 employees and they all live in my head and they are all busy tonight right now. So if you decide to buy the book, check it out. Go to our website, acesmatter.com. I'm sorry, acesmatter.org/unbook clubs. And drop that in there for y'all as well, because the link, you can access it directly there if you're not a copy and paste type of person. So just scroll down, you'll see an option to go to Amazon and buy the book. And we might get a little bit of pocket change from anybody that purchases My Grandmother's Hands by Resma Minicum. So real quick, let's do a read. First of all, I'd like y'all to know that this book has several great chapters, but most importantly, part 1, he talks about being unarmed and dismembered. It ain't what you think it is. But I picked out chapter 3 for the month of June because I really wanted to focus on, we be looking at people with trauma and we don't often take into consideration what in the world didn't happen inside that person's body that is causing them to react like that. And chapter 3 does a dang good job of explaining body to body generation. What this book has helped me do is it helped me get away from looking at the person, the flesh, the person that I can touch and see acting a fool, whether it's at the grocery store, parking lots, traffic, airports, at home with our spouses. I just had an argument with my spouse. I took it out. You know what? I didn't have my tools with me because anyhow, on another note, it does a really good job of helping us see people from the inside out instead of focusing on the behavior. So I wanted to spend some time and do a quick little Cindy read. And then if y'all decide to buy the book, great. I want to give a couple shout outs before I get into this. I want to first shout out my new friend and colleague. I found all my new friends over hashtag. Her name is Brooke Arntz. It has just a really cool last name. She put together a real cool promo for this event. And I'm excited to have people who find us on the internet and they're just like, how can I help? So Brooke, shout out to you. Shout out to my board members who've been helping keep the ship afloat. And shout out to all the volunteers from University of Central Florida, Rollins College. I really appreciate having access to my volunteers who help make things like this possible. And then without, last but not least, man, it's some people that have been donating consistently to keep the lights on. We've been able to reach more than 10,000 people since we started this in 2020. Y'all, 10,000 people. It may not seem like a lot because there's a little girl online. Her name is Suki. She got millions of followers or had millions of followers. So when people be like, oh, you ain't got that many people following you, it's different. When you have 10,000 people get access to this content, that is 10,000 people who have an opportunity to be generational chain breakers. Generational chain breakers. So for us, even one counts. If we get access to one person and one person decides to digest this information and say, you know what, I'm going to raise my children differently because now I see the chain reaction that it causes when we pass down belief systems that no longer serve us. So even one follower of this content has the opportunity to impact multiple generations. So does Suki. If you follow, I ain't gonna put her page up here, but there's a young little lady that comes to mind for me a lot. And if she comes to mind for me a lot while I'm off script, the whole body to body generation getting there. But I think about this young lady who has a very large following on social media. And all she does is brags about how her aunts and her aunties, and I'm not sure if her mom was in there. I hadn't heard one of those videos yet. But this young lady has several young people following her. This is what I need y'all to know. Because she posts about how good her vajayjay is. She teaches little boys and little girls how they can make money by using what's between their legs. And people pay her to say that. People pay her to say that. Okay. So this ain't no like throw Suki on the table. I like Suki because I understand why Suki behaves the way she behaves. She tells you all about it. That growing up, she was taught how to use what was between her legs to get stuff. And now she got probably your kids following her. If you on LinkedIn, your kids probably not follow her. But if you anywhere on Instagram and Facebook watching this, your kids probably follow her. So go find their Instagram and make them unfollow her. No, actually, don't do that. Just teach them. Like, okay, I'm gonna get back on script because I don't have a 15 minutes with y'all. Chapter 3. Body to body generation. Drop some comments if you're watching. If you've read the book by Risma Minicum called My Grandmother's Hands, let me know in the chapter 3, body to body generation. This is the second time that I've had a live conversation about this book. And so I am going to again focus on chapter 3, body to body generation. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Reading time with Cindy. I'm not going to do the whole thing because we ain't got that kind of time, but check this out. Not to know what happened before you were born is to remain forever a child. Cicero. No man can know where he is going unless he knows exactly where he has been and exactly how he arrived at his present place. Maya Angelou. I'm only going to do the highlighted parts. If you want the book, you got to go buy it. Highlighted here. Sometimes people inflict this pain on others deliberately, but more often it occurs spontaneously and unexpectedly. When therapists work with couples in crisis, we often discover at least one partner has unhealed childhood trauma. Again, this book club is for people who have learned about ACEs or interested in knowing what adverse childhood experiences are. I'm giving you tools, free tools. Hey, Joy, you read chapter 3? I can tell it is having, hey, good job, Joy. I'm glad you watched it. She said she can tell. I'm telling y'all, healing is expensive, but it don't have to be. And if you got the attention span, you can figure out solutions to yourself just by finding people like this dude. So he helped me. He helped me a lot. So we keep going. Joy, thank you for sharing that. What we don't often consider is how trauma can spread, check this out, from body to body in any relationship. You got a boss with trauma, he bringing that drama to work, and it is going to spread from body to body, which means if your boss at work acting up, doing certain things to people, and it's pissing you off because you looking up and you like, how you even get this job? It's going to do something to your body. And guess what? If you got kids and a husband at home, you're going to take that energy right into your house. Y'all, this is scientific. We're not making this up, trying to do this for show. This is telling us the importance of understanding how trauma is like an electrical current when you're in the same space with people who have not done the healing. So as we carry on, he says, children are highly susceptible to this because their young nervous systems are easily, capital E, overwhelmed by things older and more experienced nervous systems are able to override. Let me give you an example. Wake your ass up before you miss the bus. And they ain't taking you to school if you miss the bus. You're going to walk. That's a powerful nervous system on a tiny little nervous system. And that is the energy that child is going to get before they head off to school. And guess where they're going to leave that energy? With Miss Johnson in room 305. Yes, sir. I'm telling you, they're not making this up. This stuff is super, super real. Super, super real. One lady called it hazy trauma. She said, trauma can't be traced back to any single specific event. Why did I highlight that one? Because the way I grew up, we was told to get over it. We should just let the past be the past. You can say, hey, the past can be the past. But I'm telling you, if you take my e-course on the biology of trauma, you're going to see, you might say, I didn't forgave and forgot, but your cells like, no, we ain't forgetting that. Your cells inside of you, because you made up of a whole bunch of trillions of them, you are basically walking, talking bacteria. I like to say that if you believe in Genesis, you know, I talk about the giants on earth. We the giants, y'all. Seriously, we the giants. We are basically walking, talking bacteria. Let me ask you a question. Can bacteria dance? If I played a song, could bacteria dance? The answer is, hey, I'm walking, talking bacteria. I'm more bacteria than I am human cells. So if you think about it, we are walking, talking bacteria. So even if your mind says, I didn't forget about that, I didn't forgive, your body be like, no, you can think what you want. But the next time I feel threatened, I'm going to use that same reaction that I learned during my first 7 years of life on this earth. Carrying on, back on script. Unhealed trauma acts like a rock thrown into a pond. It causes ripples that move outward, affecting many bodies over time. You can pretty much pick up any Tyler Perry movie if you're a Tyler Perry fan, and it's got aces written all over it. Aces written all over it. I watched one last night from 2010, and I'm like, this whole movie was about aces. And I didn't even know what aces were, but I watched it again. And I'm like, this whole movie was about aces. Carrying on, back on script. And if trauma gets transmitted and compounded through multiple families and generations, they be like, that's just the way that family is. That's a lie. They lying. Don't believe that. That is a lie. And the truth ain't in them, as grandmother would say. These traumatic retentions may have served a purpose at one time. Okay? They might have provided protection. They might have supported resilience. They might have even inspired hope. I ain't gonna never grow up and be like my daddy, or I ain't gonna never grow up and be like my mama. But generations later, when adaptations continue to be acted out in situations where they are no longer necessary or helpful, they get defined as dysfunctional. Yeah, they gave y'all a nickname, us. Dysfunctional behavior on the individual family or culture. Have y'all ever had somebody say, oh, that's just the way that family is? It ain't got to be like that. But when you think about body-to-body generation and you think about cliques or cultures, like in biology, they call them cultures of bacteria. Same thing. Think of cultures of bacteria. Cultures of bacteria. I'm going to take y'all back to school. If you went to public school education and you were in a probably disadvantaged neighborhood, your experience might be a little bit different. But I'm going to just tell you, there's these things called petri dishes. Okay. And when you're in science, they tell you, okay, we're going to put some bacteria. We're going to find, I had to do one when I was in undergrad school, and the teacher let us pick any random object in the college, swab it, and then come back, and we had to do a culture on it. We had to see what the bacteria was, and whatever it was that we got, did it grow? And I swabbed an elevator button. And I remember doing this specifically. I was 19 years old, and I'm getting somewhere with this. I swabbed an elevator button with my little Q-tip, did my whole little thing. It was the cutest little science experiment. That bacteria from one elevator button grew over the course of my time in that class. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that happened, because I swabbed it. I didn't see nothing on the Q-tip, but it turns out in that Petri dish, it's what I couldn't see that was underneath. And that culture of that one swab grew without me even touching it. We sat it in the corner, put it in this little safe place, kept coming back a couple of days, and that bacteria had grew. So when you think about something that just looks like that's the way that family is, it's because the bacteria is growing. And you know, I'm trying to be facetious right here, but it's basically spreading like he talked about on the pond. So until we address it, we're going to keep seeing that family produce seeds that act the same way. I ain't making this up. I'm just trying to help somebody. So as I go on, back on script, trauma can also, and this has been the most profound thing that I've learned since I started doing this work. They say trauma can also be inherited. I just made that word up. Inherited genetically. And they have this big old word for it called epigenetics, meaning if you come from a generation of people with childhood trauma, it is possible your cells kept a record for that. And they say the cells will keep a record from anywhere from 3 to 14 generations. I actually think it goes back to the beginning of time, but the most current research is saying that if you come from a line of trauma, if you were on the one end of the whip or the other end of the whip, the chances are that your body remembers what happened to your ancestors. And when I say it, your cells / bacteria, your cells and your bacteria will respond on your behalf, is basically what he's trying to tell us here. So trauma can also be inherited genetically. And it gets even weirder. Back on script. We now have evidence that memories connected to painful events. You lost somebody. We don't even want to talk about the painful stuff that happened to some of the people who were forced to come to this colony to build it. But he talked about the research is showing us that memories connected to painful events get passed down from parent to child and to that child's child. That ain't even right. Talk about reparations. This is what we need to be doing for reparations. The science is telling us that if you were on the end of the chains that weren't getting paid and that was getting beat and killed and tortured, that means if you come from that generation or that bloodline, that means somewhere in your body is remembering that too, on top of all the stuff you have to deal with in your own reality. So back on script. If you're watching, tell me, do you have plans on buying the book? I have one more class coming up. I'm gonna do some more of chapter 3 at the last of I think next Thursday, whatever the last Thursday is. So that's next week. We're gonna finish up chapter 3. But if you have plans on buying the book, love to know your takeaways from it. But I'm gonna carry on. I'm getting back on script right here. Essentially, genetic changes train our descendants' bodies through hereditary rather than behavior. Essentially, genetic changes train our descendants' bodies through hereditary rather than behavior. Train. Who trained you on? Whose gravy trained you on? Because that trauma be dripping like gravy on a Thanksgiving evening meal. That trauma be dripping. And we have to understand that if trauma is dripping before we even start sipping, then we need to be thinking about how we're going to break the response and be first generation chain breakers. Anyhow, if you're interested, he gets into some medical stuff. If you just like, I need some more facts because your cells are like, we ain't buying that. Let's just keep being who we are. Because I ain't gonna even lie to you. Your cells are probably looking at this like, I don't really want to hear that. But the truth is, that's because they didn't got comfortable in that place of safety and fear. And if you work with families and parents like that, they may not want to hear this because they cellular system is like, nah, we good. Just the way things are. And he goes on in another chapter to talk about how we get into maladaptive behaviors because we don't want to address what's real on the outside. Joy, I'm excited for you to finish this book up. I'm almost done. Here's something that I think all people who are planning on having a baby or anybody who work with people who get pregnant need to know that womb can be traumatized before it even comes out of the you know what. He says, if the fetus's mother is relatively happy and healthy during her pregnancy, and if she has a nervous system that is settled, like ain't nobody getting on her last nerve, her body will produce few stress hormones. Be like, oh, lolly, golly, golly. And the baby's up in there like, wow, I can't wait to get dropped down into this place. This seems like a really cool place to be. But to everything, there's an opposite. If for some reason that fetus is in a stomach like mine was, because I was 22 and pregnant and fighting in the streets, crying because the dude that I had gotten pregnant by didn't want to be with me. Man, my baby had a really hard 8 months in my womb. And with a lot of positive childhood experiences later on in her life, she was able to overcome that. But I'm gonna tell y'all, without giving y'all all her business, her 8 months in the womb, if I could redo that over, she did not deserve that in the womb. She did not deserve that. I'm gonna get off topic one more time because I use social media for content. And there's another young couple that I like to follow, especially if you work with children who are in some of these underprivileged neighborhoods. They're likely following a couple named Blueface and Crochet. I think her name, I'm probably messing it up. Blueface and Crochet, something like that. Sorry, messing her name up. They got millions of people following them, millions of young people, like kids we trying to keep from going down this path. And the young lady is pregnant. They got the most toxic relationship I've ever seen on social media. And the fact that they get paid to put more, they actually doing a documentary. So they gonna even make it go louder. They want this trauma between this very young 20, probably 20, 21-year-old couple to be loud. So now somebody is following them with a camera 24/7, recording it and posting it so people can feed off of the toxicity in their relationship. And the baby is pregnant. So all of this mess that you see on social media, that baby is experiencing that. Meanwhile, the little girl getting a lot of likes and a lot of money. So back to this, he says stress can disrupt the immune, the vascular, the metabolic, and the endocrine, big old words, endocrine system, and cause cells to age more quickly. So for babies who are having to live inside of a traumatized womb, they're going to come out and be like, I don't really know about this place. And here you got crying babies, colic babies, sick babies, and all of a sudden you can't figure out why your baby won't stop crying and why they always sick, because they stress system. If you were stressed while you're pregnant, your baby gonna need a little extra support. And that support has to come from somebody who has a calm, not a big old scary nervous system. Because all you're going to do at that point is add more stress. So there's so much that we got to teach our people who are having babies or working with people with babies, because our bodies are bad. We got some badass bodies. Like they just like whatever created us, for those of us that believe in religion, God that created us did a great job. There is no accidents. We are all tied to each other. And this book does an excellent job of just saying how one we are as a community. 6 more minutes. Y'all with me? Joy, thank you for hanging in there. I appreciate you. Let me know what's coming up for you in chapter 3. Tell me what was most impactful for you. I'm going to carry on with our Unbook Club for the people who don't like to finish all their books. But just so you'll know, I'm back on script. I'm going to read from right here. If something is hysterical, then it is usually historical. Sit with that one. Think about our communities. Remember I told you about the Petri dish and how it just grew, and I just sat it there. I ain't do nothing to it. It just grew. Cells have one job. Trillions of them that are inside of us. We would not be alive if we didn't have them. So cells have one job. Divide and multiply. Divide and multiply and stay alive. Divide, multiply, stay alive. I guess that's kind of 3 jobs, but like all in one. And when you think about communities where trauma is most pervasive, what are they doing? They're multiplying, and there's a lot of division. And he says if something is hysterical, then it's usually historical. Y'all, there ain't no accident. There is no accident, but I'm going to carry on. If your or anyone's reaction to a current situation has more or far less energy than it normally would, then it likely involves energy from ancient historical trauma that has lost its context. Like, I just blew up and I don't even know why I did that. In the present, your body is experiencing unmetabolized trauma, like food just sitting on your stomach from the past. Y'all seen some of those trending internet videos where people just go off in the airport, go off on gate agents? If you work for Spirit, 2 heartbeats for you, because I know y'all get handled the worst. But I had a chance to see quite a few trending videos. And there was actually one here in Orlando where the 2 kids was watching their mama act a fool. That was unmetabolized trauma, because she did not have to take that out on. I don't even know the story. It don't even matter. All I know is she didn't have the tools to handle that confrontation. And as a result, she created ACEs for her children live on social media right there. Violence. Violence is an adverse childhood experience, no matter what way you chop it up. If children are around violence, their nervous system is figuring out how to survive. And that will be the nervous system's response for pretty much the rest of the time until it's not. Okay. So I want to leave y'all with his key points from this book. He calls them rememberings. Let me see if I can make this like 1 page so that actually I can't, because this is an edited version. How he closes up this chapter, if you decide to buy the book or if you decide to come back next Thursday. He says trauma can be spread from one body to another. like a contagious disease through families and from generation to generation. And when we say this, let's not just like keep it to our household. We have to think about community trauma, workplace trauma, um, anywhere where we're spending our time. If there is trauma, it can be spread. And that trauma seems like such a big word because we think about like car accidents. Let's just think about stress. Like intolerable toxic stress can be spread from one body to another if the person has not gotten the tools to know how to regulate their response system when somebody's getting on their last nerves, if you will. When someone with unhealed trauma chooses what he calls dirty pain over clean pain, y'all know dirty. In our hood, we called it behind. You just went below the belt. That's dirty pain in my words. He or she may try to push his or her trauma through another human being by using violence, rage, coercion. We like to call that narcissism too, betrayal, or emotional abuse. This only increases the dirty pain while often creating trauma in the other person as well. Yeah, we don't really want that. Like, we don't really want to be hurting people like that. And the truth is, adverse childhood experiences are perpetrated against society by society. Essentially meaning human beings are doing this to other human beings. Big nervous systems are doing this to little nervous systems. That's us. Big nervous systems are doing this to little nervous systems. And if big nervous systems keep doing trauma, toxic stress to little nervous systems, we just going to continue to repeat the wheel. And I think that's why they're saying nothing new under the sun. I'm going to go over to his last 3 key points here, or the last 4 key points in his book of chapter 3. And it says trauma. I'm right here because this one's now highlighted, but I'm going to do that just because this is live. I'm circling these right here, y'all. Check it out. Trauma and other adverse childhood events are associated with a wide range of illnesses, disabilities, social problems, and early death. All of these can get passed down through the generations. So cancer, diabetes, basically most of the stuff that people dying from, all we need to do is trace back to their childhood. And again, we can't change that stuff, right? We can't change what happened in the past necessarily, but we can definitely influence how we are respecting the nervous systems of the people who are the little nervous system people, right? And the only way to do that is you got to unlearn what happened to you in childhood. And if we're not helping families and children learn how they got where they are, we are essentially feeding the system more people to put in jail or on prison, and put in prison, jail, or on welfare systems. We're band-aiding, or what I like to say is we're putting lipstick on a pig. It's still going to be a pig. It just got lipstick on. As I carry on. Secondary trauma or vicarious trauma involves watching someone else be traumatized and sometimes giving aid to them. And especially poisonous form of secondary trauma can occur when a person not only witnesses another person being harmed, but also inflicts that harm. Social workers, teachers who are having to work with children who are coming to school traumatized, they can be affected by nurses, doctors, and even children who are growing up in homes where there is domestic violence in the house. And when we say domestic violence, it can be mama on daddy, daddy on mama. If they watching it, they getting some secondary trauma, even if maybe the kids are not getting hit themselves. That is trauma. That's big nervous systems messing with little nervous systems. Carry on. Here's the solution. Resilience is built into the cells of our bodies. And remember, there's trillions of them. Like trauma, resilience can ripple outward, changing the lives of people. Remember I said, if only one person come, hey, Joy, if only one person come, imagine that one person and all the people that are in that person's generation. It just gives me chills. Now, some people on the internet looking for followers because they twerking. Ain't no shame. But if you're trying to heal and be a first generation chain breaker, man, you could cause a chain reaction in your family line. So changing the lives of people, families, neighborhoods, and communities in positive ways. Also, like trauma, resilience can be passed down from generation to generation. So if trauma can be passed down from generation to generation, then so can healing. The human brain always retains the capacity to learn. Y'all, we were not created by mistake. Our brain is like, I'm just waiting on you. I'm just waiting on you. While trauma can inhibit or block somebody's capacity, once the trauma has been addressed, growth and positive change become possible again. Man, this book is fire. This book is fire. Joy, I appreciate you coming in. I see you saying you just discovered, I just discovered you in this book today on LinkedIn, but I'm interested in traits we have from our ancestry. I read chapter 3 quickly and I am hooked. Yay. Do me a favor, Joy. If you're hooked, there's an option to tweet the author and let him know about it. Again, he don't even know that I'm doing this. I just need him to know. Thank you for your services, sir. Like, thank you as a therapist. He's a therapist for putting that out there. So tweet about it if you don't mind. Drop that tweet in there and let him know that you learned about this book through us, because I'm just throwing this out here. All 8 of my employees have showed up tonight to bring this special edition of the Unbook Club Party to y'all. And Joy, I am glad that you showed up. Anybody else that's watching tonight, I appreciate you all coming in. I will be back next Thursday, same time. And I'm just going to do this again. If you want to be on camera and participate, please feel free to shoot us an email. Let me know. If you want to commentate with us, we just feel like doing it. We just give it away. Like, it's the best we can do, because I know therapy can be really expensive. It was for me. And if it was for me, it probably is going to be for you. But if your money long like that and you can see a therapist, make sure you're talking to your therapist about your adverse childhood experiences. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for my rushed Unbook Club Party. And I hope to see you again next week. Joy, I really appreciate you came. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.